A new CBS News Battleground Tracker poll shows a change in the top Democratic presidential contenders. Senator Elizabeth Warren has a 1-point edge over former Vice President Joe Biden. Senator Bernie Sanders is also gaining ground. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is on Capitol Hill with the latest. Ed, what more can you tell us about this slight shift in numbers here?
Yeah, and Marie, look, it's not a story about Joe Biden slipping. It's more that Elizabeth Warren is on the rise. The survey finds that she's got the most enthusiasm among Democratic voters in the first 18 states that we surveyed, and it shows that they believe she has a better shot than before at defeating President Trump.
Hello, New Hampshire Democrats!
Senator Elizabeth Warren earned an enthusiastic response at the New Hampshire Democratic Convention, where 19 presidential candidates spoke over the weekend. The new CBS News Battleground Tracker poll shows Warren edging out Joe Biden in the Granite State by 1 point. Biden maintains his lead in Iowa and is blowing away the field in South Carolina, where he has strong support with African Americans. But in Nevada, Senator Bernie Sanders is now in front of Biden and Warren with 29% support.
We got a revolution to make. You ready to do it?
The poll also finds that Warren is picking up the most support from voters changing their minds. For example, 29% of voters who previously supported California Senator Kamala Harris have switched to supporting Warren. It was a rough weekend for Harris, who had to apologize after a man attending one of her town halls called President Trump's actions mentally retarded. And she responded with,
"Well said." Well said.
Harris later told CBSN's Caitlin Huey-Burns she didn't hear the man's full comments.
It was not something that I really heard or processed or, or in any way condone. That's for sure.
Meanwhile, former South Carolina Governor and Congressman Mark Sanford announced he is going to challenge President Trump for the Republican nomination.
This is the beginning of a long walk, but it begins with that first step, and that's what I'm announcing here today.
Okay, and so first I want to ask you about Sanford. People may recall him probably most recently being in the news, or at least making significant headlines after quite a scandal in his home state. So how much of an uphill climb is this going to be for him?
Yeah, so he had been a member of Congress, became governor, walked the Appalachian Trail, so to speak, when he admitted to an affair with a woman from Argentina, and then was spent the last few years in Congress but got defeated last year because the president didn't like him. Got defeated in a primary. And it will be tricky for him, for former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld, for former Congressman Joe Walsh to find traction, in part because several states are now thinking about actually canceling their primaries, citing the massive popularity of the president among Republican voters. There's precedence for this. Some states did this back as far back as 1992 with George H.W. Bush. Some Democratic parties decided to do it when Bill Clinton was president. They cite a desire to save money and not go through a process that they know the conclusion of. But those three candidates will have to find a way to try to convince Republicans to hold off from canceling those primaries, and yet those pleas will probably fall mostly on deaf ears.
Yeah, most likely. Okay, so let's talk about the Democrats. Do we know why voters are starting to maybe change their minds a little bit when it comes to the support of Senator Warren? You know, getting an enthusiastic response in New Hampshire, I wasn't really surprised by. It's sort of a neighboring state to her state, and it's in line with her political philosophy, if you will. But to see that is contagious beyond just New Hampshire was quite interesting.
Yeah, part of the beauty of the Battleground Tracker survey is that we're going back and re-interviewing people that we had talked to before. And that's where we found that 29% of Harris supporters had switched from the Californian to the senator from Massachusetts. The why is a little trickier, but overall the poll shows us she's got a greater amount of enthusiasm among Democrats, and there's now a growing belief that she's meeting the so-called electability test. Could she beat the president? The number is up for her, and that's a good sign because it was one of her weakest spots.
All right, so we've got another Democratic debate on the horizon. What can we expect from the upcoming debate after this weekend?
The big thing we're all watching, Anne-Marie, that Biden-Warren showdown. They will be center stage given their positioning in the polls. They have not yet faced each other in a debate. All of us will be focused primarily on that, but also keep an eye on what those out on the edges of the stage try to do to work themselves into the conversation. Perhaps one other interesting bit of body language to watch, Texas native Beto O'Rourke and Texas native Julian Castro, who both desperately want to do well in their state, will be side by side at the far left end of the stage.
Interesting. Ed O'Keefe. Thank you very much, Ed.
Take care.